Bruchim Habaim. Welcome, friends. Shalom. I'm in a section of the Zohar Shlach Lecha, chapter 45, where it says, "Behold, his reward is with him, and is higher before him." Now, why did I decide to do a video on this? What's interesting about this chapter is it talks about Natan, son of David, who is the mother of Mashiac. And this is something that I haven't really come across too much of in my studies over the years, but I thought it was awesome and I wanted to share. So let's get into it. It says in verse 298, in addition, he opened the discussion saying, "You that bring good tidings to Zion, get you up into the high mountain." Yeshaya 40 verse 9. Into the high mountain definitely means the mountain of Avarim, at which Moshe was buried. We have already explained that the Shekinah will ascend from there and will proclaim the good tidings to the world. However, she includes everything, meaning the expression good tidings to Zion comprises the variety of literal interpretations. You that bring good tidings to Zion is Hephzibah, the wife of Natan, son of David, who is the mother of Mashiach, Menachem, son of Amiel, who was her descendant. And she shall go out and bring the tidings about redemption. She is part of the general meaning of you that bring good tidings to Zion. Now it's interesting because the Tanakh says the Mashiach must come through Shlomo HaMelech. And here the Zohar is talking about Natan, son of David, who is the mother of Mashiach. And the sages actually have quite a bit to say about this. And I actually took from a website of Ephraim Palvanov, who discusses a little bit more of this. And he says, while we would assume that Mashiach is a direct descendant of David through his son Shlomo, there is actually another opinion, and he's quoting the Zohar here. And he says, for instance, the notes that Mashiach, Zohar notes that Mashiach might actually not from Shlomo, but from David and Bathsheba's third son, Natan. And so he says it appears that the Christians wanted to satisfy both rabbinic opinions when providing two different contradictory genealogies for the Jesus in the New Testament, one going through Shlomo and one through Natan. The irony, of course, is that Christians think Jesus is the literal Son of God. So what use is a human lineage anyway? Well, so, okay, yeah, Christians, they don't understand the Jewish context of the Gospels. They don't understand Mashiach. Many of Christians, anyway, do not understand the concept of Mashiach according to its true context. But he is the Son of God. Shlomo's the Son of God. So we just got to take it back into the context of Judaism. And so it's interesting because the Gospels in the genealogy of Luke mention that Mashiach, Yeshua, comes from the son of Natan. And so very interesting, very interesting. And he goes on anyway. It says, the Zohar says that Natan's wife was called Hephzibah, and their son was Menachem ben Amiel, an epithet for Mashiach. The problem is that we also know King Hezekiah's wife was named Hephzibah. And Hezekiah was the most righteous king since his forefather David, and is certainly the progenitor in the line of Mashiach. The Talmud Sanhedrin 98b states that Hezekiah himself should have been Mashiach, and despite totally being righteous, he had one missing quality. And I'm not going to get into all the details here, but he says the son of Hezekiah and Hephzibah was Manasseh, Judah's longest serving monarch. And Manasseh had the potential to be Mashiach too. And he did merit the longest royal reign, but fell into idolatry and wickedness. King Manasseh was yet another failed Mashiach. And some have argued that Menachem ben Amiel and Manasseh must be referring to the same person, at least spiritually, he says. Yet Menashe comes from Shlomo, and Menachem is supposed to come from Natan. How do we solve this dilemma? So in Pirkei Rabbi the Eliezer comes in and at first glance complicates the problem further. And he states in chapter 19 that Menachem ben Amiel is a descendant of Yosef. So he's more likely Mashiach ben Yosef, not Mashiach ben David. Now, we might therefore conclude two things, that both Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef are actually descendants of King David, the former through Shlomo and the latter through Natan. And perhaps just as the former is maternally descended from the tribe of Dan, the latter is maternally descended from the tribe of Yosef. Maybe Hephzibah, the wife of Natan, was a descendant of Joseph. And so the reality is that a person can be a direct descendant of multiple figures, especially after so many generations and so many marriages in between. Today, all Jews are Yehudim, and by default, Judeans, even Kohanim and Leviim, are Yehudim. So there is no reason why Mashiach ben Yosef cannot be a descendant of both Yosef and David. He would undoubtedly be a Yehudi after all. And intriguingly, even David is called an Ephrati, apparently with Ephraimite lineage in his past. As it says, see 1 Shmuel chapter 17, verse 12, which begins with the David ben Ish Ephrati. So he says, as it stands today, all the tribes have long thoroughly intermixed, and the exact lineage is no longer of significance, nor is it even traceable. What's important are the key qualities that Mashiach must possess, and the ability for inspiring leadership and for dignified kingship, as well as most significantly to accomplish the task set out in the Tanakh, as codified by Rambam and Hilchos Melachim. When Mashiach does come, he will merit to wield the serpentine staff of Moshe, that special tool fashioned by God at the twilight of the sixth day of creation, as it says in Avot 5:6. And who will provide him with that staff? None other than the returning Hephzibah, the Mevaseres Sion, and a fierce warrior in her own right, who has the power to slay kings, as described in the little-known ancient Sefer Zerubbabel. The staff of Aaron and Moshe and David, king of Israel, the staff which flowered in the tent of meeting and brought forth blossoms and produced almonds, and Eliyahu, son of Eleazar, hid it in Rakat, the territory of Naphtali, which is Tiberias, and there was hidden Mashiach ben Ephraim. And we all know, well, maybe we don't, but Ephraim, Mashiach ben Ephraim, Ephraim is just a term of power and authority and kingship. It's a more of a term for stature rather than a little term of being from the tribe. Understand this. This is mentioned in the Midrashim and by the sages as well. And Zerubbabel ben Shealtiel said to Michael the angel, "If it please my Lord, when will come the light of Israel, and what will be after all after Hephzibah will gather Israel as one man, and the king of Persia will come against Israel, and there will be great distress in Israel. And Hephzibah, the wife of the prophet of Natan, will go out with the staff which the Lord will give her, and the Lord will make a spirit of confusion enter them, and they will slay one another, and there the wicked will die." So there's a lot on this. And what's interesting is Hephzibah, well, you can take these two, the Fe and the Zadi, which is Matzpat. These are the final, the Sophite letters of the Hebrew. And the outside is Het Yud Chai Ba, life in her, or my delight is within her. Hephzibah, as it's broken up into two words here in the Zohar. Interesting. So you have a mother giving birth. It's not even from the traditional view in the Tanakh, the Zohar is hinting to, but also I had another friend of mine share some other information from the Ramak, and the Ramak says this on the commentary: the matter is thus: after Shlomo HaMelech was blemished by three things, with gold, with women, and with horses, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded them to not increase, so that he would not be drawn after evil forces, and he increased them and thus erred. Therefore his close brother Natan ben David merited that Mashiach would come from him instead, and his source is from Chokhmah, and the secret of Hashem gave Natan wisdom, which is concealed. Therefore he will not be the one to proclaim the Geula, rather his wife, who is called My Delight is in her, Hephzibah, who is the aspect of Bina. And Mashiach will come from their seed after several generations, in the time when the temple is being destroyed, and he will be called Menachem, in honor of comfort my people, and the name of his father Amiel, in honor of with whom is God Most High. Now, there's another thing I want to share here. I took notes because this is amazing stuff. And I'm citing a source from Chabad.org, and it's titled, Is the Messiah Descendant of King Shlomo? Yehuda Shurpin. And so it says like this. It says, the famed 20th century Jewish scholar and Kabbalist Rabbi Reuben Margolis explains that the Zohar is careful to describe the Mashiach being as a descendant of Natan's wife, rather than of Natan himself. Natan had passed away childless, and Shlomo, his brother, married his widow according to the laws of Yabum, Levirate marriage. Wait a minute. Natan was childless, and it comes from the merit of the wife? Sounds familiar. Just saying. This is not my opinions. These are from the sages. In a Levirate marriage, the firstborn son of the widow and the brother of the deceased is considered to be a continuation of the dead husband's line. Therefore, Mashiach is referred to here as offspring of Natan, even though he's a descendant of King Shlomo. And here's the source right here. And so it's interesting that the Ramak says Hephzibah is the aspect of Bina. And then Bina in the Kabbalah emerged with sparks on her own, almost like Ibur gave birth on her own. Even in the spiritual aspect. And then you have Natan, son of David, but it's Hephzibah who is credited with all this. Interesting. And just to go a little bit more, I'm not going to read through the whole chapter, but it's an amazing chapter. If you haven't read it before, I suggest maybe going through and reading. It talks about Mashiach and basically the era, the footsteps of Mashiach. And 304, I just wanted to read this. It says, in addition, she will bring good tidings for the second time when the Shekinah will be on the high mountain, and she will go with the tidings to the patriarchs. Swiftly, the Shekinah will visit Jerusalem and see its destruction. She will enter Zion, and there she will batter the wall as before. Now, over original dwelling house she enjoyed at that location, and she will swear that she will not leave there until the Holy One, blessed be He, redeems her children. The same Hephzibah will bring tidings as before, and declare, cry out and shout, you inhabitants of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel in the midst of you. Yeshua 12:6. What is great in the midst of you? That is the Holy One, blessed be He, who comes to her to raise her from the dust and say to her, shake yourself from the dust, arise and sit down, O Jerusalem. The Shekinah is Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is assuredly her name. And so this is, behold, his reward is with him, and his hire before him. And so I just wanted to share the story of Hephzibah, Natan, and these concepts of Mashiach. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Take it how you want. And until next time.